Let's bring in Jonathan Turley, Fox News contributor, George Washington University law professor. Professor, good morning to you. You know, the president last night said he was optimistic, but then again suggested that, he wanted to make sure that what goes on from this point forward is completely legit, and he might go to the Supreme Court. Our question is, what could he possibly go to the Supreme Court and say?
Well, I would be surprised if some of these challenges do not make it back to the Supreme Court. You know, in past presidential elections, we've waited for the wave of litigation that came at the end of the election day, or more often the next day. In this election, we started in the red zone. I mean, we had already been to the Supreme Court. We've seen challenges in all of these swing states. Many of these cases were placeholders. Many of them were challenging practices in case this state turned to be one of those nail biters. Well, that's happening. Our worst case scenario is happening. We're looking at states that, quite frankly, are a mess. I mean, Pennsylvania is a mess. I mean, it has had a lot of previous litigation that tore apart these election rules. So you have these controversies. In Pennsylvania, they will take ballots after election day as long as they're postmarked. But even if they're postmarked and you can't clearly see when they were postmarked, they're going to give the benefit of the doubt to the voter. Even if their signatures don't match, once again, that will not bar ballots. All of those types of issues raise the integrity of the voting process, but they also raise the role of courts in changing state election laws. So all of that is ripe for challenge. So in the next few days, we will focus on counting the votes. But after that, we will focus on keeping the votes. That's where litigation gets quite intense. We do not have at this time the type of blowout that would make litigation largely irrelevant.
Right.
What was your reaction when you found out that Republicans, it looks like, will take the Senate? Because there was that worry from conservatives that they would try to stack the court and add more Supreme Court justices if the Democrats won.
Well, the threats against the Supreme Court were a source of really deep concern for many of us. And indeed, I think that was a blunder of the first order by Joe Biden. Many Americans would vote for him, but would have serious trouble voting for anyone who was willing to consider taking a hatchet to the Supreme Court. But, months ago, I wrote that if Donald Trump prevailed in this election, the people most responsible, I think, would be the media. That we've had this just unrelenting level of negative coverage from the media. And I think the result was that a lot of voters were turned off by it. They certainly turned off the news.
Yeah, the impeachment were the good old days. The pandemic is all his fault. He never does anything right. And after a while, with Twitter and Facebook freezing his account, it becomes this, and with them putting all the money into everybody against him and Republicans, I think the American people stood up and said something, and we'll see what happens. But my last question to you, Jonathan, is in these states that look like they're going to be decided by 1%, Wisconsin, Michigan, maybe Pennsylvania, perhaps Georgia. If you don't like the outcome, do you have a legal right to challenge it, especially with so many absentee ballots, absentee ballots, to go in and just look at all these ballots and make sure there are signatures, make sure they're filled out correctly, make sure they shouldn't be provisional or no longer in the hopper?
Or alive?
Absolutely. This is a target-rich environment for litigation. There is every right in the world for both camps to challenge the counting of these ballots. There are conditional and provisional balloting. There's controversy involving how these ballots were sorted and stored. All of that can legitimately be brought to the court and will be by both parties. So this could very well be decided in the court. And the only good thing is that all of my political commentator friends will be taken off to television in favor of legal analysts who should have been here all along.
It's all about you, Jonathan. That's your reputation. All about you. There you go.
All right. Jonathan Turley, thank you.
FaceTime for the legal experts.